Hello, Trailblazers. This is Mrs. Bryant wishing you a happy Constitution Day. I'm going to go through some slides just to make sure that we all know how important our Constitution is and how different patriotic symbols help shape and represent our country. Alrighty, so let's start off with some fast facts about the Constitution. James Madison is considered the father of a Constitution, and it took about 100 days for it to be written. Once the Constitution was finished, it was signed by 39 different representatives, or that means different people. The Constitution was written in 1787 and is still in effect today. The U.S. Constitution has 4,400 words and is the oldest and shortened written Constitution in the world. But man, did it have a big impact for us. So let's get to the basics. Laws are a set of rules that we live by, and the Constitution is the highest law of the land. It belongs to the United States, which means it belongs to all Americans. The Constitution says how the government should work, and it creates the presidency and the Congress. The Constitution also creates the Supreme Court. So you might be asking yourself, how does all this work? Well, the Constitution helps set up how our government is organized. And so our government is split into three parts. We have Congress, which makes laws. We have the president, who enforces laws. And then we have the court system, who decides what the laws mean, and they help out if there's any questions about the laws. The Constitution makes sure that all of these three parts work together, and they have what's called a system of checks and balances to make sure that no one part has too much power, that the power is shared, and that it helps all people. So now I have a nice little visual about those three branches of government I was just talking about. We have the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. And so the next few slides are going to talk about what pieces and parts and people make up those branches. So the first branch I'm going to talk about is our executive branch. President of the United States, Joseph Biden, is in charge of the executive branch. The executive branch signs laws, vetoes laws, pardons people, appoints federal judges, and is elected every 4 years. Next up, we have the United States legislative branch. The legislative branch is made up of Congress, and they make laws, approve presidential appointments. There's 2 senators from each state, and there's a number of congressmen based on the population of different branches. Next up, we have the United States judicial branch, and they're made up of our Supreme Court justices. They decide if laws are constitutional. They are appointed by a president. There are only ever 9 of them, and they can overturn rulings done by judges from localities or states. So we just talked about our United States branches, but we actually also have those branches at a state level as well. So the Virginia State Executive Branch is comprised of Governor Glenn Youngkin, and he is an elected constitutional officer that is the head of the executive branch and the highest state office in Virginia. He is elected every 4 years, and although there is no life term limit, the governor cannot serve consecutive terms, which means they can't serve a whole bunch of years in a row. Glenn Youngkin is the 74th governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Next up, we have our Virginia State Legislative Branch, which is the Virginia Legislature. The General Assembly is a body that consists of a lower house and the Virginia House of Delegates, with 100 members, and an upper house, which is the Virginia State Senate, with 40 members. The General Assembly meets in the Virginia Capitol, which is in Richmond. And when sitting in Richmond, the General Assembly holds sessions in the Virginia State Capitol. Next up, we have our Virginia State Judicial Branch, and that is the Virginia State Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court of Virginia's primary function is to review decisions of lower courts, or I like to think of them as our local court system. So speaking of local, let's talk about some of our local Louisa government officials. So 2 of our local officials are our mayors. So in the town of Louisa, we have Mayor R. Garland Knuckles. And in the town of Mineral, we have Mayor Ed Jarvis. And the mayor's responsibilities are primarily to manage council meetings and ensure that the town and its departments are operating smoothly. The mayor often serves as a representative for the town for different types of ceremonies and is elected through a vote by the town's residents. Next up, we also have Mr. Christian Goodwin. He's a county administrator, and they manage the county's operations to ensure that the county provides quality services to all the people that live in it. So now let's talk about our local county branches. Louisa County's legislative branch is made up of our Board of Supervisors. There are 7 members on the Board of Supervisors, and they are elected by citizens to serve 4-year terms representing each of the county's voting districts. Last but not least, we have our Louisa County Judicial Branch, and their names are listed above. These judges preside, which means they work cases to make sure that everyone is following the laws. A judge's duty is to uphold federal and state laws to the best of their ability. All of those individuals and those pieces and parts make up the 3 branches that are at our federal level, our state level, and our local county level. Last but not least, before we wrap up this Constitution Day presentation, let's just talk about some patriotic symbols, because the Constitution is one of those important things. On the slide here, you'll see that patriotism means being proud of things that represent our country. And on the slide are examples of different patriotic symbols for the United States of America. Some additional well-known patriotic symbols of the United States are also our national bird, the bald eagle, the Statue of Liberty, which is in New York, the Liberty Bell, the flag of the United States, and the Washington Monument. Also, some patriotic symbols for our state of Virginia are our state bird, the cardinal, our state tree, the dogwood, our state flower, which is also blooming on the dogwood, and last but not least, our Virginia state flag. And that is a wrap, Trailblazers. Thank you for listening to all this information about our Constitution and our government on this Constitution Day. We are so lucky to live in a country that has all of these checks and balances to make sure that we're living in a fair and safe place. I hope you guys have a legendary Constitution Day. And please let me or your teachers know if you have any other questions. Have a great day.